Welcome to the Narrative Reading Bible Podcast. I'm Jessica. Did you know that you can access free resources to dive into the Narrative Reading Bible with your small group or book reading club? Those are available at thenarrativereadingbible.com. Everything from our 2025 reading plan, which is updated every time I fall behind, and resources for facilitators, frequently asked questions, discussion questions, all the things you would need to facilitate a seamless small group reading effort are available at the website. So check those out at thenarrativereadingbible.com. And I encourage you to get the books that go along with this audible reading of the text so that you can follow along, highlight, take notes, and engage in an immersive Bible reading experience. Today, we're going to continue our reading of 1 Samuel with pages 151 to 162. I hope you enjoy this reading.
David added, "The Lord who delivered me from the claws of the lion and the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." "Go," said Saul, "and may the Lord be with you." Then Saul clothed David in his own tunic, put a bronze helmet on his head, and dressed him in armor. David strapped his sword over the tunic and tried to walk, but he was not accustomed to them. "I cannot walk in these," David said to Saul. "I am not accustomed to them." So David took them off, and David took his staff in his hand, selected 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag. And with his sling in hand, he approached the Philistine. Now the Philistine came closer and closer to David, with his shield-bearer before him. When the Philistine looked and saw David, he despised him because he was just a boy, ruddy and handsome. "Am I a dog," he said to David, "that you come at me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. "Come here," he called to David, "and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." But David said to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand. This day I will strike you down, cut off your head, and give the carcasses of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the creatures of the earth. Then the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And all those assembled here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." As the Philistine started forward to attack him, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him. Then David reached into his bag, took out a stone and slung it, striking the Philistine on the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. Thus David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. David ran and stood over him. He grabbed the Philistine's sword and pulled it from its sheath and killed him, and he cut off his head with the sword. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. Then the men of Israel and Judah charged forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. And the bodies of the Philistines were strewn along the Shaaraim road to Gath and Ekron. When the Israelites returned from their pursuit of the Philistines, they plundered their camps. David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, and he put Goliath's weapons in his own tent. As Saul had watched David going out to confront the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, "Abner, whose son is this young man?" "As surely as you live, O king," Abner replied, "I do not know." "Find out whose son this young man is," said the king. So when David returned from killing the Philistine, still holding his head in his hand, Abner took him and brought him before Saul. "Whose son are you, young man?" asked Saul. "I am the son of your servant Jesse of Bethlehem," David replied. After David had finished speaking with Saul, the souls of Jonathan and David were knit together, and Jonathan loved him as himself. And from that day, Saul kept David with him, and did not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. And Jonathan removed the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic, his sword, his bow, and his belt. So David marched out and prospered in everything Saul sent him to do, and Saul set him over the men of war. And this was pleasing in the sight of all the people, and of Saul's officers as well. As the troops were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out of all the cities of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing, with joyful songs, and with tambourines and other instruments. And as the women danced, they sang out, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." And Saul was furious and resented this song. "They have ascribed tens of thousands to David," he said, "but only thousands to me. What more can he have but the kingdom?" And from that day forward, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. The next day, a spirit of distress sent from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied inside the house while David played the harp as usual. Now Saul was holding a spear, and he hurled it, thinking, "I will pin David to the wall." But David eluded him twice. So Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with David but had departed from Saul. Therefore Saul sent David away, and gave him command of 1,000 men. David led the troops out to battle and back, and he continued to prosper in all his ways, because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw that David was very successful, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he was leading them out to battle and back. Then Saul said to David, "Here is my older daughter Merab. I will give her to you in marriage. Only be valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles." But Saul was thinking, "I need not raise my hand against him. Let the hand of the Philistines be against him." And David said to Saul, "Who am I, and what is my family or my father's clan in Israel, that I should become the son-in-law of the king?" So when it was time to give Saul's daughter Merab to David, she was given in marriage to Adriel of Meholah. Now Saul's daughter Michal loved David, and when this was reported to Saul, it pleased him. "I will give her to David," Saul thought, "so that she may be a snare to him, and the hand of the Philistines may be against him." So Saul said to David, "For a second time now you can be my son-in-law." Then Saul ordered his servants, "Speak to David privately and tell him, 'Behold, the king is pleased with you, and all his servants love you. Now therefore, become his son-in-law.'" But when Saul's servants relayed these words to David, he replied, "Does it seem trivial in your sight to be the son-in-law of the king? I am a poor man and lightly esteemed." And the servants told Saul what David had said. Saul replied, "Say to David, 'The king desires no other dowry but 100 Philistine foreskins as revenge on his enemies.'" But Saul intended to cause David's death at the hands of the Philistines. When the servants reported these terms to David, he was pleased to become the king's son-in-law. Before the wedding day arrived, David and his men went out and killed 200 Philistines. He brought their foreskins and presented them as payment in full to become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave his daughter Michal to David in marriage. When Saul realized that the Lord was with David and that his daughter Michal loved David, he grew even more afraid of David. So from then on, Saul was David's enemy. Every time the Philistine commanders came out for battle, David was more successful than all of Saul's officers, so that his name was highly esteemed. Then Saul ordered his son Jonathan and all his servants to kill David. But Jonathan delighted greatly in David, so he warned David, saying, "My father Saul intends to kill you. Be on your guard in the morning. Find a secret place and hide there. I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, so I can ask about you, and if I find out anything, I will tell you." Then Jonathan spoke well of David to his father Saul, and said to him, "The king should not sin against his servant David. He has not sinned against you. In fact, his actions have been highly beneficial to you. He took his life in his hands when he struck down the Philistine, and the Lord worked a great salvation for all Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. So why would you sin against innocent blood by killing David for no reason?" Saul listened to the voice of Jonathan and swore an oath, "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." So Jonathan summoned David and told him all these things. Then Jonathan brought David to Saul to serve him as he had before. When war broke out again, David went out and fought the Philistines and struck them with such a mighty blow that they fled before him. But as Saul was sitting in his house with his spear in his hand, a spirit of distress from the Lord came upon him. While David was playing the harp, Saul tried to pin him to the wall with his spear, But the spear struck the wall, and David eluded him, ran away, and escaped that night. Then Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him and kill him in the morning. But David's wife Michal warned him, "If you do not run for your life tonight, tomorrow you will be dead." So Michal lowered David from the window, and he ran away and escaped. Then Michal took a household idol and laid it in the bed, placed some goat hair on its head, and covered it with a garment. When Saul sent the messengers to seize David, Michal said, "He is ill." But Saul sent the messengers back to see David and told them, "Bring him up to me in his bed so I can kill him." And when the messengers entered, there was the idol in the bed with the quilt of goat's hair on its head. And Saul said to Michal, "Why did you deceive me like this? You sent my enemy away, and he has escaped." Michal replied, "He said to me, 'Help me get away, or I will kill you.'" So David ran away and escaped, and he went to Samuel at Ramah and told him all that Saul had done to him. Then he and Samuel went to Naioth and stayed there. When Saul was told that David was at Naioth in Ramah, he sent messengers to capture him. But when they saw the group of prophets prophesying, with Samuel leading them, the Spirit of God came upon them, and Saul's messengers also began to prophesy. When this was reported to Saul, he sent more messengers, but they began to prophesy as well. So Saul tried again and sent messengers a third time, and even they began to prophesy. Finally, Saul himself left for Ramah and came to the large cistern at Seku, where he asked, "Where are Samuel and David?" "At Naioth in Ramah," he was told. So Saul went to Naioth in Ramah, but the Spirit of God came upon even Saul, and he walked along prophesying until he came to Naioth in Ramah. Then Saul stripped off his robes and also prophesied before Samuel, and he collapsed and lay naked all that day and night. That is why it is said, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" Then David fled from Naioth in Ramah. He came to Jonathan and asked, "What have I done? What is my iniquity? How have I sinned against your father, that he wants to take my life?" "Far from it," Jonathan replied. "You will not die. Indeed, my father does nothing, great or small, without telling me. So why would he hide this matter from me? This cannot be true." But David again vowed, "Your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes, and he has said, 'Jonathan must not know of this, or he will be grieved.' As surely as the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, there is but a step between me and death." Then Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you desire, I will do for you." So David told him, "Look, tomorrow is the new moon, and I am supposed to dine with the king. Instead, let me go and hide in the field until the third evening from now. If your father misses me at all, tell him, 'David urgently requested my permission to hurry to Bethlehem, his hometown, because there is an annual sacrifice for his whole clan.' If he says, 'Good,' then your servant is safe. But if he is enraged, you will know he has evil intentions. Therefore deal faithfully with your servant, for you have brought me into a covenant with you before the Lord. If there is iniquity in me, then kill me yourself. Why should you bring me to your father?" "Never," Jonathan replied. "If I ever found out that my father had evil intentions against you, would I not tell you?" Then David asked Jonathan, "Who will tell me if your father answers you harshly?" "Come," he replied, "let us go out to the field." So the two of them went out into the field, and Jonathan said, "By the Lord, the God of Israel, I will sound out my father by this time tomorrow or the next day. If he is favorable toward you, will I not send for you and tell you? But if my father intends to bring evil on you, then may the Lord punish me, and ever so severely, if I do not tell you and send you on your way in safety. May the Lord be with you, just as he has been with my father. And as long as I live, treat me with the Lord's loving devotion, that I may not die, and do not ever cut off your loving devotion from my household, not even when the Lord cuts off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth." So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, "May the Lord hold David's enemies accountable." And Jonathan had David reaffirm his vow out of love for him, for Jonathan loved David as he loved himself. Then Jonathan said to David, "Tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed if your seat is empty. When you have stayed 3 days, hurry down to the place you hid on the day this trouble began, and remain beside the stone Ezel. I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as if I were aiming at a target. Then I will send a boy and say, 'Go, find the arrows.' Now, if I expressly say to him, 'Look, the arrows are on this side of you, bring them,' then come, because as surely as the Lord lives, it is safe for you and there is no danger. But if I say to the young man, 'Look, the arrows are beyond you,' then you must go, for the Lord has sent you away. And as for the matter you and I have discussed, the Lord is a witness between you and me forever." So David hid in the field, and when the new moon had come, the king sat down to eat. He sat in his usual place by the wall, opposite Jonathan and beside Abner, but David's place was empty. Saul said nothing that day because he thought, "Something has happened to David to make him ceremonially unclean. Surely he is unclean." But on the day after the new moon, the second day, David's place was still empty, and Saul asked his son Jonathan, "Why hasn't the son of Jesse come to the meal either yesterday or today?" Jonathan answered, "David urgently requested my permission to go to Bethlehem, saying, 'Please let me go, because our clan is holding a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has told me to be there. So now, if I have found favor in your eyes, please let me go and see my brothers.' That is why he did not come to the king's table." Then Saul's anger burned against Jonathan, and he said to him, "You son of a perverse and rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the disgrace of the mother who bore you? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingship shall be established. Now send for him and bring him to me, for he must surely die." "Why must he be put to death?" Jonathan replied. "What has he done?" Then Saul hurled his spear at Jonathan to kill him. So Jonathan knew that his father was determined to kill David. Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger and did not eat any food that second day of the month, for he was grieved by his father's shameful treatment of David. In the morning, Jonathan went out to the field for the appointment with David, and a small boy was with him. He said to the boy, "Run and find the arrows I shoot." And as the boy ran, Jonathan shot an arrow beyond him. When the boy reached the place where Jonathan's arrow had fallen, Jonathan called to him, "Isn't the arrow beyond you?" Then Jonathan cried out, "Hurry, make haste, do not delay." So the boy picked up the arrow and returned to his master. But the boy did not know anything. Only Jonathan and David knew the arrangement. Then Jonathan gave his equipment to the boy and said, "Go, take it back to the city." When the young man had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone, fell face down, and bowed 3 times. Then he and Jonathan kissed each other and wept together, though David wept more. And Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for the 2 of us have sworn in the name of the Lord, saying, 'May the Lord be a witness between you and me, and between your descendants and mine forever.'" Then David got up and departed, and Jonathan went back into the city. Then David came to Nob, to Ahimelech the priest. And when Ahimelech met David, he trembled and asked him, "Why are you alone? Why is no one with you?" "The king has given me a mission," David replied. "He told me no one is to know about the mission or charge, and I have directed my young men to meet me at a certain place. Now then, what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread or whatever can be found." "There is no common bread on hand," the priest replied, "but there is some consecrated bread, provided that the young men have kept themselves from women." David answered, "Women have indeed been kept from us, as is usual when I set out, and the equipment of the young men is holy, as it is even on common missions, and all the more at this time." So the priest gave him the consecrated bread, since there was no bread there but the bread of the presence, which had been removed from before the Lord and replaced with hot bread on the day it was taken away. Now one of Saul's servants was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief shepherd for Saul. Then David asked Ahimelech, "Is there not a spear or sword on hand here? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business was urgent." The priest replied, "The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, is here. It is wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you want, you may take it, for there is no other but this one." And David said, "There is none like it." Give it to me." That day David fled from Saul and went to Achish king of Gath. But the servants of Achish said to him, "Is this not David, the king of the land? Did they not sing about him in their dances, saying, 'Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands?'" Now David took these words to heart and was very much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and feigned madness in their hands. He scratched on the doors of the gate and let his saliva run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, "Look, you can see that the man is insane. Why have you brought him to me? Am I in need of madmen, that you have brought this man to rave in my presence? Must this man come into my house?" So David left Gath and took refuge in the cave of Adullam. When his brothers and the rest of his father's household heard about it, they went down to him there. And all who were distressed or indebted or discontented rallied around him, and he became their leader. About 400 men were with him. From there David went to Mizpeh of Moab, where he said to the king of Moab, "Please let my father and mother stay with you until I learn what God will do for me." So he left them in the care of the king of Moab, and they stayed with him the whole time David was in the stronghold. Then the prophet Gad said to David, "Do not stay in the stronghold. Depart and go into the land of Judah." So David left and went to the forest of Hereth. Soon Saul learned that David and his men had been discovered. At that time Saul was in Gibeah, sitting under the tamarisk tree on the hill at Gibeah, with his spear in hand and all his servants standing around him. Then Saul said to his servants, "Listen, men of Benjamin. Is the son of Jesse giving all of you fields and vineyards, and making you commanders of thousands or hundreds? Is that why all of you have conspired against me? Not one of you told me that my own son had made a covenant with the son of Jesse. Not one of you has shown concern for me, or revealed to me that my son has stirred up my own servant to lie in wait against me, as is the case today." But Doeg the Edomite, who had stationed himself with Saul's servants, answered, "I saw the son of Jesse come to Ahimelech son of Ahitub at Nob. Ahimelech inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him provisions. He also gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine." Then the king sent messengers to summon Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and his father's whole family, who were priests at Nob. And all of them came to the king. "Listen now, son of Ahitub," said Saul. "Here I am, my lord," he replied. And Saul asked him, "Why have you and the son of Jesse conspired against me? You gave him bread and a sword, and inquired of God for him, so that he could rise up against me to lie in wait, as he is doing today." Ahimelech answered the king, "Who among all your servants is as faithful as David, the king's son-in-law, the captain of your bodyguard who is honored in your house? Was that day the first time I inquired of God for him? Far be it from me. Let not the king accuse your servant or any of my father's household, for your servant knew nothing of this whole affair, not in part or in whole." But the king replied, "You will surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house." Then the king ordered the guards at his side, "Turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because they too sided with David. For they knew he was fleeing, but they did not tell me." But the king's servants would not lift a hand to strike the priests of the Lord. So the king ordered Doeg, "You turn and strike down the priests." And Doeg the Edomite turned and struck down the priests himself. On that day, he killed 85 men who wore the linen ephod. He also put to the sword Nob, the city of the priests, with its men and women, children and infants, oxen, donkeys, and sheep. But one of the sons of Ahimelech son of Ahitub escaped. His name was Abiathar, and he fled to David. And Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord. Then David said to Abiathar, "I knew that Doeg the Edomite was there that day, and that he was sure to tell Saul. I myself am responsible for the lives of everyone in your father's house. Stay with me. Do not be afraid, for he who seeks your life is seeking mine as well. You will be safe with me." Now it was reported to David, "Look, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah and looting the threshing floors." So David inquired of the Lord, "Should I go and attack these Philistines?" And the Lord said to David, "Go and attack the Philistines and save Keilah." But David's men said to him, "Look, we are afraid here in Judah, How much more if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? Once again, David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered him, Go at once to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into your hand. Then David and his men went to Keilah, fought against the Philistines, and carried off their livestock, striking them with a mighty blow. So David saved the people of Keilah. Now Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, had brought the ephod with him when he fled to David at Keilah. When Saul was told that David had gone to Keilah, he said, God has delivered him into my hand, for he has trapped himself by entering a town with gates and bars. Then Saul summoned all his troops to go to war at Keilah and besiege David and his men. When David learned that Saul was plotting evil against him, he said to Abiathar the priest, Bring the ephod. And David said, O Lord, God of Israel, your servant has heard that Saul intends to come to Keilah and destroy the city on my account. Will the citizens of Keilah surrender me into his hand? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? O Lord, God of Israel, please tell your servant. He will, said the Lord. So David asked, Will the citizens of Keilah surrender me and my men into the hand of Saul? They will, said the Lord. Then David and his men, about 600 strong, set out and departed from Keilah, moving from place to place. When Saul was told that David had escaped from Keilah, he declined to go forth, and David stayed in the wilderness strongholds and in the hill country of the wilderness of Ziph. Day after day Saul searched for him, but God would not deliver David into his hand. While David was in Horesh in the wilderness of Ziph, he saw that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son Jonathan came to David in Horesh and strengthened his hand in God, saying, Do not be afraid, for my father Saul will never lay a hand on you, and you will be king over Israel, and I will be your second in command. Even my father Saul knows this is true.
Thank you for tuning in today. Tomorrow, we're going to continue reading 1 Samuel with pages 163 to 175. We'll see you then.